The Rams aren't just chasing a Super Bowl, they could turn the NFL into their personal nightmare. But with an aging core, brutal opening stretch, and thin O-line, one injury could blow up the entire Avengers-level dream.
They'll have some wrinkles this year that we haven't previously seen. The age and the injuries are kind of a factor, though, Mina. Injuries, as you mentioned, they could hit anybody, but the Rams are an older team, right? This is a team who has one of the oldest players, not just quarterbacks in the NFL, Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams, who defied time last year. I mean, the fact that these guys led the NFL in passing touchdowns and receiving touchdowns, just ridiculous at the combined age of 70 years old last year. And I do believe this Rams team, we're going to figure out very early on in the season whether this is the Avengers and the team that is setting the pace for the rest of the league and 31 others are chasing them, or if this is a team that's very good, but in a tier with a handful of other teams as Super Bowl contenders. Their first 5 games, no joke, including that opener against the Niners in Australia.
That would be huge news if Puka Nacua is somewhat injured. And Chase, looking at this Rams offense, what are your concerns for how they'll able to duplicate kind of what they did last season?
Look, everyone's talking about the new look defense. Myles Garrett, is Aaron Donald working out? When's he coming back? Is he coming back? How long until he gets back? And rightfully so. I think the defense is going to be really good, Molly. But on offensive side of football, you have the reigning MVP. You have a guy in Davante Adams who led the NFL in touchdown catches. How will they evolve as an offense? That's what I'm going to be looking at. Look, their identity last year was, hey, let's get in 13 personnel, started about week 5 or 6 against Baltimore, and let's spread these teams out, really make it look like a 2x2 or a 3x1 formation and get these teams in base defense. Well, guess what? There's a year of tape on this Rams offense. Maybe so, but I don't think Matthew Stafford's going to throw for 46 touchdowns again. So it's just finding that identity on offense. Who is going to be the guy that steps up? Like Davante Adams, 17 touchdown catches last year. That's wild. And I think what in the Sean McVay offense can they add that stays on the forefront of cutting edge? Because that's what they've done every single year. I don't know if it's more, hey, let's get back into 11 personnel formations and get down to like a 3 tight end look like they did a couple years ago. Mina, it's just they go back and forth so much. So I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it's a great point. McVay has evolved that offense so much, even just over the last few years. You talked about the personnel groupings. The run game has evolved, going from being a zone run game to more of a duo run game. And I think McVay has shown such an ability to bend that offense or grow it with the different personnel he has. Look, when I look at this depth chart, if you were to tell me that the depth chart on paper is the same one we will see for the majority of the season, frankly, I have zero concerns about this offense. However, I do worry about injuries. And I know people are listening to that and they're saying, well, yeah, that's true of every team. Sure. But I would argue it is more true of this team, particularly with the offensive line. McVay's been very good at evolving the offense. The 13 personnel switch up came in response to wide receiver injuries. I trust him completely in that regard. But that offensive line is not particularly deep, especially at the tackle position. And Matthew Stafford, as amazing as he was last year, first in yards per play kept clean, drops to 25th under pressure. So if you were to take out one of those offensive linemen, that would be the only thing that concerns me about this Rams offense. But, we're talking about depth, right? Not actually the players on the field, because the players in the field are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to find dramatic issues with this Rams roster. I would argue on both sides of the ball.
But that margin may already be getting tested, because while everyone is waiting for the stars to arrive, something unexpected is happening in the trenches. And it could change everything.
Myles Garrett didn't practice today. They said he had a little swelling on his knee, but again, some self-preservation stuff going on with the Rams. But let's not forget what they already have up front. They've got Poona Ford. They've got Kobe Turner. They've got Braden Fisk. They've got Byron Young. And boy, did they show up early on in this practice today on the inside running drills. The Cowboys, it was tough sledding as those 4 and some other players rotating in really stood firm, would not allow themselves to get moved off that ball. So when Myles Garrett comes back, that's one thing. And, oh, yeah, there's that Aaron Donald guy who still could be coming back. Sean McVay, the head coach, said nothing new on that front, but he would like to hear something sooner rather than later. But it wasn't just the Rams deep front that looked good. Quinnen Williams next to Kenny Clark for those Dallas Cowboys. We know Quinnen Williams has signed that 3-year, $105.9 million extension, and he ain't resting on that money, Patrick. He was out there doing work today. You could see that defensive front with Sean McVay and some players that the Cowboys have added. That's how you protect the two smaller, speedy linebackers, DeMarvion Overshown and D. Winters. Those guys are making plays all over the field in the run game because they've got some help up front. And again, that's the way you make counters from smaller linebackers, by keeping people off of them.
The Rams aren't just chasing another Super Bowl. They could become the team the entire NFL spends the season trying to escape. Matthew Stafford, Davante Adams, Puka Nacua, Myles Garrett, Sean McVay. That is an absurd collection of talent. Last season, Stafford and Adams combined for 70 years of age, yet Stafford led the NFL with 46 passing touchdowns, while Adams led the league with 17 touchdown catches. But now comes the uncomfortable question. Can they do it again? The Rams are older, their opening stretch is brutal, and one injury, especially to Puka Nacua or along the offensive line, could completely change the picture. And we may find out very quickly, because the biggest question isn't whether this offense has talent, it's whether McVay can stay one step ahead of the defenses that now have a full year of tape. Last season, around week 5 or 6, the Rams found their identity. They leaned into 13 personnel, using 3 tight ends and formations that force defenses into base personnel before spreading them out. It worked. But now, there is a full season of tape. Defenses know what they're looking for. And I don't think Stafford is throwing 46 touchdowns again. So McVay has to create something new. Maybe more 11 personnel. Maybe another 3 tight end evolution. Maybe another transformation in the running game, just like he previously shifted from zone concepts toward more duo running. That is what makes McVay so dangerous. He doesn't simply run a system. He changes the system around his players. But this year, everyone is waiting for the next trick. And even if McVay finds the perfect answer, there is one problem that no playbook can completely solve. The Rams' biggest concern may not be Stafford. It may not be Adams. It may not even be age. It could be the offensive line. When Stafford was kept clean last season, he ranked first in yards per play. Under pressure, he fell to 25th. That is a massive difference. And the Rams simply aren't as deep at tackle as you would want from a championship team. If the starters stay healthy, I have very few concerns. But remove one important offensive lineman? Suddenly, everything changes. The pocket gets smaller. The run game suffers. Stafford gets hit more. And an offense built around precision can start collapsing under pressure. That is why injuries are more important for this team than people want to admit. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Because while the offense has questions, the defense is already sending a warning. Myles Garrett didn't practice because of some swelling in his knee. Self-preservation. Fine. But look at what happened without him. Poona Ford, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Byron Young. Those 4 were extremely difficult to move during early run drills against Dallas. The Cowboys struggled to create space. The Rams' front stood firm. And that matters because when Garrett comes back, he isn't joining a weak defensive line. He's joining a group that already has power and depth. And then there's Aaron Donald. Sean McVay said there was nothing new on that situation, but he wants to know sooner rather than later. If Donald somehow returns, now imagine Garrett and Donald around this front. That is not just another defensive unit. That is a nightmare matchup. And that leaves us with the real question. Are the Rams truly built to dominate, or are they simply one injury away from becoming another very good team? That is what makes this Rams season so fascinating. The talent is undeniable. Stafford is still elite. Adams just scored 17 touchdowns. The defense could be loaded. McVay continues to evolve. But this roster may have an unusually small margin for error. If Stafford stays healthy, Adams keeps producing, Nacua returns strong, the offensive line holds together, and Garrett leads the defense the way everyone expects, the Rams could absolutely become the team everyone else is chasing. But if the injuries arrive,
Especially along that offensive line?
the entire Avengers-level dream could collapse much faster than anyone expects. And that is why the opening weeks matter so much. Because very early in this season, we may discover whether Los Angeles is the NFL's next monster, or simply another contender waiting for its chance. If the Rams stay healthy, the league has a problem. If they don't, we may discover just how fragile this dream really is. Thank you for watching Sport Current. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video to support the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss the latest NFL and WNBA news, breaking stories, game updates, trades, and the biggest moments in American sports. Stay tuned for more updates, and we'll see you in the next video right here on Sport Current.